you can go to paper details and it opens up in your browser. So in this way you can easily read more about this paper, download it, view a PDF, whatever, and deal with this in your citation managers. Again, another great method of discovery. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Brian Jenks, and if you're new here, on this channel we talk about all things programming, tech, and data analytics. And today we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite academic resources. Some of the areas we're going to cover involve the unique identification of academics through the use of OrcID IDs, being able to visualize your impact in the academic fields through things like Impact Story or Google Scholar, different reference and citation managers, as well as dynamic visualization of how your different research papers or research papers in general are connected through citations or reverse citations. And we'll take a look at all of these tools today. So without further delay, let's get into it. So let's say you write academic papers, you're in a research field and you put out work into that field. But what happens if you change your workplace? What happens if you have the same name as another individual in the academic field you're in? Or you get married, change your name, or anything like this happens. You need some way of uniquely identifying your work and tying it to your career and your experience. So one really useful thing to do this with is called OrcID ID. Now, OrcID ID is basically like a social security number for all of your academic work. You sign up, the ID follows you everywhere, and it is unique, and it is unique to you. So I'm going to show you what mine looks like. You can just list out your work experience, your education, different publications, societies that you're part of, different grants or funding you've received, and you can do all of this from here. And now you have a unique link with a number. Now this 4-section number here is basically your OrcID ID. You can do this with citation managers. You can use this with R packages. I have a published R package that actually uses OrcID ID. So here we can see the CRAN posting for my package runes. And right next to my username right here, it says I'm the author, the creator, but it also has a link to my OrcID ID profile. And this is one way that people in the academic settings will refer to themselves so that you can actually see who they are, what they've done, and different ways to contact them, their website links, and just all this type of stuff for their publications. So in this way, you can be uniquely identified in your field and just in academia in general. Now, piggybacking off of the actual OrcID ID number, the identifier that actually uniquely identifies you, there is a very awesome website called Impact Story. Now, I've looked up this person and I tried on every single one of her sites. I'm not sure if she's actually a doctor or just has a master's, but either way, I don't think she's a doctor, but if she is, I didn't mean to title drop. But I really picked her profile because she's got a lot of really great content on here. Mine is, I haven't really published anything that's really had any impact, so I'm not really a good example. But I wanted to show her profile, when you have your OrcID ID number, and hers is right here in the URL for impactstory.org, it'll actually give links to the person's social media, different publications they've had, and then the impact of those. So over time, you can get achievements for how widely impacted your fields are by your research, or different citations, different publications here, co-authors, all kinds of really good, awesome information about your impact in a specific field through the use of OrcID ID, Impact Story, and likely Google Scholar for some of these references here. And really, once you have an OrcID ID and you link your publications to OrcID ID, it's really just a matter of log in, and then you can log in with your OrcID ID. I already have mine hooked up, and here's my empty profile. You could also hook it up with Twitter. That way, if anybody references your work, it'll also appear in those different things. But you can see, I only have one publication on here, and my profile's pretty barren. That's why I used GOOOOOO as a example of this. Another really great tool for looking at your impact in a field and just to see how much you are used as a cited author is Google Scholar. Google Scholar hosts a large collection of research papers. Not all of them are free. In fact, I don't even know if it is free by default in general. But in any case, having papers published on Google Scholar, I'm going to use GOOOOOO again as an example, but she has a lot of different papers she's either written or has been a part of, and you can see how much those papers have been cited by other papers, and you can see this impact of your work in a specific field or fields. Now, one of my favorite things about research papers, and academia are these citation managers. Basically, it is these programs that are GUI based that will let you, read, annotate, take notes, highlight these PDF documents that are research papers with DOIs, or digital object identifier numbers, basically your OrcID ID or your social security number for a digital asset, or in this case, a research paper. You can actually look up the BibTeX citations. You can actually have those citations used in other documents, Word documents, LaTeX documents, Graph documents, other different things, so that you can actually have these papers cited. And this program will store all of these different citations, so you can just say, hey, I cited these 15 papers in this latest work of mine, and it'll build that bibliography file, the .bib file, for you, so you can easily just reference those papers, cite that, add that URL to that file path resource, that bib file, and now you have a perfectly formatted bibliography in whatever style you're using, Chicago, APA, MLA, whatever. And I really like these programs because they help you organize your research as you're performing it. So you can have different categories, tags, folder structures for different subjects, statuses, like I'm reading this, I haven't read this, and I have completed reading these, and you can have your notes available to you. And I'm going to cover three different programs that I have looked at. I've used Mendeley before and actually tried to use it. It is not my favorite. I do like it more than Jabref, which is also a free and open source software citation manager on GitHub. I didn't really care for Jabref much at all, and what I've now, through actually in the process of making this video, really come to love, and what several of my PhD student, master students, or people who have master's degree that are all friends of mine, all recommend, is really Zotero. And I'll save the best for last, but I'll leave some timestamps below for people who just want to jump to one specific program or not. So the first thing we're going to cover is Jabref. So this is what the Jabref interface looks like. I'm not going to go over all the functionality of all these programs in depth because each one could easily take multiple videos itself. But for instance, I have several entries in here. I have a bunch of different papers. This one is an article about data science. You can see it has a DOI in here. It's actually linked to a file that I have on my file system. So if you didn't have that, then just by having a DOI number in here, I can hover over this little world symbol right here, click that, and it actually says DOI. I have one. And if I click that, it'll actually use, I believe, crossref.org to find the paper itself, and it'll open up a copy of that paper in my browser, and now I can read the paper. Now, I tend to like actually having the physical files on my computer, so by actually linking it to a physical file like this, you will actually get a file icon right here. And clicking that will actually open up the actual file on my file system, in which case it is this actual paper. Now, if I actually wanted to get the citation, I can go to the BibTeX source here, and here's the actual citation in all its glory. And you can actually get all of these different citations built for you by selecting a bunch of different files and then exporting to a bibliography file. Now with Jabref, unlike Mendeley, I'm sure there might be a way to do this, but I'm not really easily finding it, which is already annoying, where say you just want to have all of your papers for everything you've ever done, processed, read, whatever, in your citation manager program, and you want to just select a couple things and then have a new bibliography file for a paper that you just wrote, created from just your current selections. Well, with Jabref, I'm not really finding an easy way to do this right off the top of my head, and just by cursory view of just saying, hey, I want to say these 3 papers here, I want to cite those in something. I can't just drag them over to a new .bib file here. All this stuff is for this one single bibliography file, in which case I need to make a new file and then import everything again into that new one, and basically do citations as I go in the citation builder and manager. And I'm going to say that of the 3 I'm going to cover today, Jabref is my least favorite citation manager. There are a million different ways of doing this type of work. Some people I know don't even use citation manager programs. They just have the references and they just do everything in a non-software oriented way. They just, here's my citation, here's the resource, and they just type it out and have the default word templates. That's fine if that works for you. Now, I like to have a more robust approach and have everything managed for me in this type of format. Now, as I said, Jabref is not my favorite. There's still, you can get some use out of it. You can import your papers. Here's the bibliography references, and you can have everything listed in your own files in your file system, import them into here, have a .bib file made, have the file saved somewhere, which for me is actually on my desktop. If I go to here, you can see I have jabref.bib. This is actually that file that was being made by all those references I had. There is some metadata in here for like comments and different things that you do, but really what you care about is these citations like this. And, to be honest, it's not my favorite way of doing things. I am not a fan of Jabref, but some people do like it, and it is free and open source software. And if you wanted to download Jabref, it's on not YouTube, it's on GitHub as Jabref/Jabref, and it is available for all platforms, or all major platforms, Mac, Linux, Windows. It's available for all of these. It does run with Java, so there might be I had to deal with some signing shenanigans for Mac, so where I actually needed to download it in a way that it allowed for an unsigned package or something. It's not signed with Mac, is what they say. So it was a little bit tricky to actually get it installed, which was annoying. But even then, it's not my favorite citation manager, so I don't really care. I'm not going to be using it. But if you do want to use Jabref, it's right here on GitHub. You can go to their website, download it, and use it to your heart's content. The next citation manager I'm going to talk about is Mendeley. I've actually used Mendeley before when I was just getting into citation managers, and it's not my favorite anymore, but it was good for what it was doing. And it does have some perks that come with it, but it is proprietary software. There are paid options, and it's not completely free and just completely open to you. So right off the bat, Mendeley is more aesthetically pleasing. It does have a nice interface. You can see that there's different buttons here for, you can change this toggleable button. Basically, it's like unread, red, but you can also make new folders. You can create tags for those folders. You can add things to, and nest these items. And something I really like about Mendeley is when I go to all of my papers or everything that I am currently working on, so I can go into here, I can open up this, here's all this information here, you can edit this metadata, and by using DOIs, by using the bib entries, you can easily just say, hey, I want to mark this as something, I can export this, and one thing that's really powerful is that you can select a bunch of different files and just export your selected files to a bibliographical file. And so what that might look like is say, hey, I'm gonna cite R packages, book down, tidy data, efficient R programming, that's fine. Right click, export, and then it lets you say, what do you want to export it as? .bib for BibTeX, and really that's what I would use. Yeah, I want to export a BibTeX citation file. I'm going to put it on my desktop, and we're just going to call it Mendeley, save it, and let's go to my desktop, and right here, Mendeley.bib, open with text edit, and we can see that it is just those papers. No other weird shenanigans or other crap in there, it's just the papers and their BibTeX citations. Really great for just, hey, I want my BibTeX entries, give them to me, I'm done. And that was already a much easier way of doing things than Jabref, especially because now within Mendeley, I have the ability to sort and file these things in different ways. For instance, like I have a folder here, I have a nested folder, I'm gonna have another level here, and you can make this like your different categories or subject areas, whatever you want it to be. And I could say, hey, I wanna drag and drop these 3 or these 4 items over to this one, and then I'm going to take this one and put it over here into red. Okay, that's fine. However you want to organize this, and by having these things separated into folders, you can keep organized on how you want things done, but you could also say, add things to favorites, add your own publications. You also have recently read and recently added, but you can take a new folder and then make a group here. Like there's just so many ways you could structure your own workflow for however you want it to work, and basically build your bib files yourself by having your own folder structures and just selecting things that you want exported to a bib file. Now, one really cool feature of Mendeley is that you can actually annotate on these documents. So if I went to one of these documents I have right here, like I have a PDF file here because it's actually on my file system, I can go to this file within Mendeley. Oh, cool, I can read the paper within Mendeley. I can select some of the text here, and then I can highlight. And with the highlight, I can actually change the color of highlight depending on what I want it to correspond for my own usage. Let's make it blue. And then I can actually add a comment. And I can say this is a blue comment. And right now it's yellow though. But we can change the color of the comments too. Now this is some very basic stuff, like change the color of a highlight, change the color of a note. But when you correspond those colors to specific things for your papers and your research, well, now you have all of this stuff located right here for you within Mendeley. Change it back to a green, but it's still got a blue note. And there's some other stuff in here too. You can remove it, you can do whatever that is. But in any case, you can annotate and select out pieces of your document. And so one really cool thing is that once you go through a very large document, and one thing I did is I had that leatherworking research paper I was reading for my historical reenactment guild that was like 400 pages long. I highlighted a bunch of stuff, I took notes. You can now go to this Notes tab in Mendeley and see all of your notes. You can click on your note and it jumps you to that area in that document. And in this way, it's easy to just look at your overall research for a specific paper, pull out the things you care about, reference that paper in a grouping, and export it to BibTeX, and there you go. You're already getting some research done. Now with Mendeley, there's also a really great feature where it will actually sync to the web. So let's say you're not at your computer, you're accessing a computer remotely, such as say you have your personal research computer at home, you leave it there for whatever reason, maybe it's a desktop, you go to work, or you go to some site, your workplace, your university, whatever, and you're on a computer, but you still want to be able to work on your research, but everything is on your Mendeley Research Manager, Citation Manager program on your computer, not with you. How can you access your work and get some work done? Well, Mendeley will allow you to sync to your online account with Mendeley. Again, Mendeley is proprietary, so there are some caveats with this, such as there are paid options. I'm sure there's some sort of paywall that makes this a little bit more difficult. They want you to support their business by paying for it. But in any case, there are, to some degree, you can just get away with free options. But if you sync your research papers with your online account, then on Mendeley.com you have a profile, and on this profile you have a library. Here's my profile. Link it to my OrcID ID, and you can actually link your Mendeley profile to your OrcID ID profile as well. But on my profile, I have my library. It's synced from my computer, and it finds all these papers. I can then open that paper online and read it, but within a Mendeley interface, which means I can still take notes, I can highlight things, I can do everything that I showed you in the editor, and it will still let me get some of my work done. Let's highlight, let's add a note, whatever. And in this way, this one was on modeling as a core component. So let's go back to my, right over here, modeling as a core component. Where is that one? There it is. So now I can open up this document, and maybe it needs to sync, but in any case, it would appear here after you sync with your online account. And if I remember correctly, I think that the paywall option comes up when you start importing more and more papers, because on my account, I wasn't sure if it was here. Yeah. So when I actually open a paper, you can see I have some percentage thing here. So something somewhere caps out at a certain time, and it really just makes it like, oh, okay, now it's an inconvenience. Now I actually need to do something to expand that, and then you need to pay for it. So really, most of what I dislike about Mendeley is really just the fact that you have to pay for something, which some people are okay with. You might have a license, your university might pay for it, whatever. If it wasn't for that option, as somebody who's not like at a brick and mortar university who's dealing with stuff and people paying for this, I might use Mendeley. It's actually a really great option. It syncs with the cloud, and you can link it up with OrcID ID. There's a lot of benefits to using Mendeley, and I have used it before, and it was pretty great. But after finding Zotero, I'm all about Zotero now. So lastly, let's check out my current and favorite Citation Manager. So all the things I liked about Mendeley, I'm pretty sure you can do them in Zotero. Zotero is completely free and open source, and it has a variety of different plugins too that really expand its functionality that I really enjoy. So let's check out Zotero. So right off the bat, great interface. We also have different things, like I can click on a certain document and I can see all of the data here. I can have notes, I can have tags. This is really cool because now you can search for things by tags and group them by tags. You can have related, such as through reverse citations. And then here's a single item. Here is that really long 400-page document on leatherwork in the Viking Age that I was reading. I can toggle the toggle button here, and here's the actual file on my file system. Here's an actual note I left on it. So in this way, you can actually have notes as a separate item here with a rich text format, and it's all linked under this single item I have here. Now with that, we also have folders. We could nest folders. You can make sub-collections. And in this way, you can easily organize through collections, sub-collections, the actual document, and all of the items related to it, such as notes and other things. And all of this just to get those bibliographical entries. And so again, let's say you have the DOI, the digital object identifier for the specific paper, but not the paper downloaded on your own file system. If I have that, such as again for 50 years of data science here, I can just go to this DOI URL, or I can just go to the actual item here in the interface, right click, view online, and it'll open up a page to, again, that paper online through the usage of the DOI, just like Mendeley did. Now, if you're more into graphical solutions like this for your references, notes, and other things, one thing this does not do as well as Mendeley, at least based on cursory review, is the actual highlighting and notes all encapsulated within the actual program itself versus marking up the original file. Because in Mendeley, if you mark up the file, the PDF, I believe that it's only stored in Mendeley, not actually on the original file itself. Whereas if I open up these PDF files within Zotero, and I open it up, and I actually highlight things, this is within the previewer. I think this is just the default Mac PDF viewer. But when I add the actual highlights, this isn't stored in Zotero. It's not listed off in Zotero, and I could actually add things like comments or different other items, and it would appear here in the viewer on the side pane, but that's not actually within Zotero. That's in the actual PDF viewer, so it's marking up the original file. Maybe that's something that you would prefer. Maybe you like things that way. But one thing that Zotero doesn't do apparently as good as Mendeley is being able to just have all of the notes and the hyperlinks and everything linked to specific sections in the PDF and all of it within that interface. But again, you can always change your workflow and work it around what the software allows you to do and find ways of just getting done what you want. For instance, if you have a short paper, you could highlight those sections on the original document. That's fine. I mean, those things are always reversible. Or you could also just have your notes reference page numbers or the actual cited text itself. Zotero does support rich text format, which is really awesome. And it looks like you can find and replace things too. That's cool. But one thing I really like about Zotero is it also makes it easy to just get your stuff into it. Sure, you could do that with Mendeley. There's other import options, but it's also just super easy. You could add your ISBN, DOIs, or any of these other IDs, add that into here, and it'll find those items for you. You could add your notes. The notes are external, which in some cases might actually be something that you want to do. You could add attachments or all this stuff, and everything is a more hierarchically organized, which I actually really prefer. And one of the biggest things is, again, this is free and open source. Zotero is completely free. So it actually makes it very beneficial because you're not going to be behind a paywall for anything. You can put everything in here and explore the program and figure out if it will work for you for all the things you want to do with your research. Another really cool thing is that tag feature for easily just finding groupings of your stuff organized all throughout however you're going to organize your stuff through different folder structures or different sub-collections. Is that, say I have all these tags here, I went through and assigned some tags to some papers, and I have some things on academia. Oh, there's all the things on academia. Okay, data science, there's some stuff, and R, and it'll show you everything related to that subject matter or tag or whatever you want to organize it. So you can organize things in a hierarchical structure through folders, through the actual collection items. Like for instance, on the library, I have all this stuff located under this leatherworking reference here, and I have the actual document, a note. You can add more and more items and attachments and different things. And you can also have all this stuff organized through tags and being able to quickly grab all that stuff, easily select multiple things, and export it through to a bib file. And so exporting to a bib file is super easy. Again, all you can do is just say, hey, I just want to take all this stuff, I want to export it, okay, and I want to take it to a bibtech entry, okay? We're going to export, I don't want the notes, I only want the files, and I think that should probably be everything I want. Yeah, so let's export that. I'm going to say, let's say Zotero, put it to the desktop, okay, save, and then let's go to, so it exported to this folder here. Now when I open that folder, there's the actual bib file. I can open that with TextEdit just to get a quick look at it, and we can see that it's just all those bib entries. Again, super easy to just get your references out of the program into a text file, so that way you can easily import it into whatever software you're going to use for your references. And one other thing I really liked about Zotero is that it's really easy to be portable. I was really, really big and really a big fan of how everything is a file, everything in plain text on Linux. Now I do, and most people do, prefer graphical things because we're a graphical species. We like seeing things visually, but that still doesn't mean I don't like having the easy out of having everything exported to a plain text format, re-import it, and have everything based on plain text. Now, certain things like note-taking systems, you could use VimWiki to have a plain text wiki style system. You could also have, say you have all of your notes in Evernote, but you want to get that into plain text. That's a lot of stuff to try and manually move over, especially if you've been living in Evernote for a while. But you can do different things like say, hey, Evernote completely exports into, and Joplin can import Evernote exports. So you can take the proprietary format of Evernote files and export that and import it into Joplin. Joplin can export all of that into a markdown directory wiki structure. And now with that, you could take a markdown wiki structure and put that into VimWiki and do some finagling with that. But really, that's like a really complex way of just getting back into plain text. What I really like about Zotero is that I could say, hey, I want to select all my stuff. I want to export it into a Zotero RDF. Zotero RDF. I can export notes, files, all of it. Okay. And let's just call it Zotero export. I can save that. And then over here in Zotero export, it has an RDF file and all of my files, in which case it's just, all of those changes. And in this RDF file, if I open that up with, it would open up in Zotero, but if I open this up in TextEdit, you can see that it's just a very large XML document. This will actually hold all of your notes, all of your changes, all of your items that you have in here. Now you might be asking, hey, you had all that stuff in Zotero. Why did it only export one file here? Well, if you look at what I actually had in Zotero, I have all these different references here. And if you go to info, you can see that I got like the actual ISBNs. All this stuff was really just me importing another bib file. So I didn't actually connect this with the actual physical files on my file system. The only time I did that was this one. So this is the actual only file currently in Zotero. Everything else is just a reference. So if you actually imported all your files, you could easily just export everything, the collection of your actual physical PDF files, your notes, and all of this structure and everything you see into a single file directory that you have there, and a single, I'm gonna guess it's like a rich data format or something like that, but really an XML document that has all of your data. And if I went to whatever reference it was, right here I think it is, the actual rich text notes that you can take are actually maintained through this XML document, and it's really easy. Like right here, yeah, here we go. This is all the the rich text format stuff we have right here: code, the explanation items, well, whatever, the memo. This is actually the XML for those notes. So you can easily just take all of your notes for a collection or the item in the collection and export all of this into one single package, take it with you somewhere else, and easily move into Zotero on a new computer. Say you had to migrate from your other computer, and it's not all locked in graphically. You can take it into a plain text format and move it over. And this is one thing that I really value, because I like that portability. I like being able to just say, hey, I know this is graphical, I like that, but for now, I actually want to take it back to plain text, move it over there, import it, and now I'm back to graphical again. And that's the sort of flexibility and portability that I really appreciate with software. You can download Zotero from their website, zotero.org, and you can see you can also add custom icons to these different things, different folder structures, grouped libraries. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. I didn't really go into a lot of this stuff in depth because there's just not time, and it would be a super long video. But you can do so much with these programs, and also just the interface on Zotero is just so clean, and it's a lot easier to pick up than something like Jabref. I was really confused when opening Jabref for the first time, trying to figure out how to do basic things. And I just really appreciated the simplistic interface of Zotero, the options it gives you, the fact that it's free, the fact that it can go back to plain text, and just really flexible. And this is without even getting into plugins. Zotero has a whole page for supported plugins that people can make for it, extending its functionality. There are so many. Some of the ones I started to play with and mess with are Zotero's Scholar citations, which I think actually works with Google Scholar. It will let you see how many citations have reverse cited your documents in your Zotero program, as well as taking your DOI numbers in Zotero and making them short, basically those bit.ly short URLs, but for DOI numbers. And then also Zotero Memento. I forget when this one does. I had a reason for doing this, but I also, I'm using these three really. It's really these three plugins I'm trying out right now. But easy to just extend the functionality and easy to also add these plugins. You just grab the Zotero file from the public project. No, it's whatever the release is for these plugins, and you grab the specific file. I forget exactly. They tell you exactly how to do it here, the .xpi file. And by going to Zotero, you could easily just like add, I think it's file, yeah, add-ons, and then you drag and drop over your XPI files onto here, and then you have your plugins installed, and it's that easy. And there you go, you're doing stuff with those plugins. Another really great tool I like for looking at research papers and just the field in general, if you're getting an overview on the research field you're looking at, is something called Citation Gecko. This is a GitHub project that I found recently that I was looking at making a project myself until I found out that really good options already exist, such as like a D3.js network graph type view of seeing how papers are connected across citations for an academic field. And this project was a really great way of doing that. For instance, you can easily start discovering papers. You can import from a BibTeX file, from Zotero, from Mendeley. You could easily connect your accounts with these two services to this service. If say I just wanted to import a BibTeX file, I don't want to have it connected to an account, you can just say, hey Zotero, hey Mendeley, export all my stuff to a bib file, import the bib file into Citation Gecko, and you'll get something that might look like this. So I have like these yellow seeds, which are the actual citations I have, and then I can say, okay, click on the seed. Okay, that's the paper Tidy Data by Hadley Wickham. And then I can see through this paper all the things that, and I have reverse citations here, papers citing this seed. So all the things that cite this paper, and these are all the black dots. Now I have another seed over here, and this one is actually cited by the same dot right here. So this little citation right here is citing both of these seeds that I have. So I could say, hey, I might want to read that paper. So you can see by clicking on that actual dot there, I could say, oh, this is that. I can go here and I can actually go and read that paper if I wanted to. And so then, now that I can read this paper, I can add it to my bib file, and then it'll be marked as a seed. But if I don't want to read this, I could just say, hey, mark that as irrelevant, and now it's gone. And the cool thing about Citation Gecko is that because I just imported a bib file and did this, you could also export it, and it will remember through metadata. So I could easily just say Gecko recommendations, put that on my desktop, save that. It's a bib file. So I could go to here. Let's get rid of the Zotero stuff from earlier. Now if I open up Gecko recommendations bib, you can see that in some of this stuff, there's actually some metadata here, gecko.title, all this stuff, and a 0. This is actually going to say that it is not applicable. It's not what you care about. And it does add some extra metadata to the bib entries. But if you just want to get a quick visualization and hunt down some research, this is a really cool graphical way to do that. You could change it to see papers that are cited by this paper, but nothing appears, so this is just the one I chose right here. But if you had things that were listed there, you can see all these different items that are cited by these papers and hunt down research in the field that you're looking at. And I thought this was a really great way of just getting a really graphical overview of things. You could change the view to be more like this, see how different things are connected to what, if you cared about this view versus more of a network graph view. And there are some other options. You could filter out different things. Say I want to see only the year after the year 2000, and I could add that filter, and it would filter different things. Let's just actually make it even harder here. Let's just make it 2017. Apply all filters. There we go, and we can filter our papers that way. Switch back to a network graph and say, okay, what's that one? And then it'll tell me, okay, it's that one. I can then go read that paper. You can see the workflow that you could work off of with this, and then add it to Zotero, add it to Mendeley, change your bib entries, reload it up, and now you have it as a seed, and you can see how all this stuff will connect. So it's a great method of discovery. And you can find it on GitHub under Citation Gecko, and it's going to be the Gecko-React project. And you can run it locally if you wanted it to, or you can run it by running it through a local port. But really, you also have this online service that can connect to your Mendeley and Zotero accounts. And I just think it's a really cool way of visualizing how your research papers that you've read or digested are all connected to each other, and you get a good overview of the field. And the last resource I'm really going to cover today is just this really cool thing I found called connectedpapers.com. It's also just like Citation Gecko in a way. I kind of preferred Citation Gecko for just how simple it was to just, hey, connect me to the papers, open up the papers, let me read them, and that's really all I wanted to do, just a method of discovery through maybe reverse citations or something. And with this interface, it's kind of the same, or you can just add a DOI, a paper title, different different things that you want to look at and get some information about them. So I'm just going to do Tidy Data by Hadley Wickham because it's a really influential paper. And it'll find out all the things that reference it. And then, okay, cool. So let's find that paper. It might be a little bit harder here than something, but let's just pick something. Build a graph. So you find the paper, you click Build a Graph, and it will develop the visualization. And you're left with this, a very similar interface to the Gecko citations. We can go in, we can look at the impact of the papers. The size, I think, is how many citations are actually going to that instance. So for instance, this one has 0 citations, 8 references. This one has 64 citations, 3 references, and just all the research connected. And then we can go to these different items here, and you can go to paper details, and it opens up in your browser. So in this way, you can easily read more about this paper, download it, view a PDF, whatever, and deal with this in your citation managers. Again, another great method of discovery. This one is a little bit more graphical, and really it's just a matter of preference. Which one would you prefer to use? And I think these are great tools for discovering new avenues of research. You can go down and read the abstracts, read the outlines, the conclusions, and figure out how all this stuff is connected through these graphs, and get an overview of the field, and then add it to your citation managers, and then you're really just ready to write and cite. So I hope you enjoyed this video and got something useful out of it. I really enjoy academic software like this. I would love to hear about what you guys use. Let me know in the comments below. What kind of resources do you use? Why do you like them? What do they do for you? How have these things helped you before in the past? And yeah, let me know. And if you want to let us know in the Discord, we have a whole academic channel in the Discord where we talk about this type of stuff all the time. Link to that is in the description below, and hopefully we'll see you there. Again, hope you enjoyed the video. Before I go, a quick shout out to the patrons who support this channel. Thank you very much, Devin, Alberto, and Klaus. Thank you guys for supporting the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.